The main idea about evolution is that species change through time. When we think in evolution, the first person who think about is Charles Darwin, who spoke about evolution and natural selection a long time ago. Those ideas were made mostly in Darwin's observation during his traveling around the world, in specific to the Galapagos Island. The Galapagos Islands are an archipelago on the Pacific Ocean located 972 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador. It consists of 13 large islands with an area larger than 10 square kilometers, 6 medium-sized islands with an area of 1 square kilometers to 10 square kilometers, and another 215 small-sized islets. It is the only archipelago on the planet that have islands in both the North Hemisphere and the South Hemisphere. Animals were alike to the species found in the equator, but different to the rest of the world. According with Darwin's idea, in each island the birds adapted. According to his idea, the birds will gradually adapt to local conditions. This process could have led to the formation of one or more different species in each island. In his book, The Origin of Species, Darwin explained his two fundamental ideas, evolution and natural selection, where he proposed that species change over time, that new species come from pre-existing species, and the old species share an ancestor in common. Darwin referred to this process as offspring with modification, that today we call evolution.
As the 21st century began, human evolution was at a turning point. Natural selection, the process by which the strongest, the smartest, the fastest reproduced in greater numbers than the rest, a process which had once favored the noblest traits of man, now began to favor different traits. Most science fiction of the day predicted a future that was more civilized and more intelligent. But as time went on, things seemed to be heading in the opposite direction, a dumbing down. How did this happen? Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into, obviously.
No way.
Oh shit, I'm pregnant again!
Shit! I got too many damn kids. Thought you was on the pill or some shit.
Hell no!
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you did. What? There's no way we could have a child now. Not with the market the way it is, no.
God, no. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Come on over here, bitch! He don't care about you!
Yeah, well, there must be something he likes over here.
You mean nothing to me, baby? Oh, shit. It wasn't me! It wasn't me!
Well, we finally decided to have children, and I'm not pointing fingers, but it's not going well.
And this is helping.
I'm just saying that before I have in vitro, maybe you should be willing to...
It's always me, right?
Well, it's not my sperm count.
Yeah! Yeah! I'm gonna fuck all of y'all! That's my boy!
Cleavon is lucky to be alive. He attempted to jump a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool and impaled his crotch on an iron gate. But thanks to recent advances in stem cell research and the fine work of Doctors Krinsky and Altschuler, Cleavon should regain full reproductive function.
Get your hands off my junk!
Unfortunately, Trevor passed away from a heart attack while masturbating to produce sperm for artificial insemination. But I have some eggs frozen, so just as soon as the right guy comes along, you know.
Darwin's concept of natural selection is based on several fundamental observations. In living beings, many characteristics are passed from parents to children, but when the organisms are able to generate more descendants than their environment can support, it will become a competition for limited resources in each generation. The descendants in any generation will have slightly different characteristics like color, size, shape, etc. And many of these characteristics will be heritable. Based on these simple observations, Darwin concluded that in a population, some individuals will have inheritable characteristics that will help them survive and reproduce. Individuals with advantaged characteristics will leave more offspring in the next generation than the others, because their characteristics makes them more effective to survive and reproduction. And this will continue until the characteristics become common in the next generations. To make the idea of natural selection more concrete, let's look at a simplified hypothetical example. In this example, a group of mice with different hair color, black color, and light brown has just moved to a new area where the rocks are black. In this environment, there are hawks who likes to eat mice, and against the background of black rocks, they will see more easily the light brown mice than the black ones. Because hawks will see more easily the light brown mice, they will catch them more than the black mice, and relatively large part of the brown mice will be eaten, compared to a much smaller fraction of black mice. If we look at the proportion of black mice against the light brown in the survival group, it will be higher than the initial population. After several generations of selection, the population will be composed almost entirely of black mice. This change in the heritable characteristics of population is an example of evolution. Natural selection depends on the environment. Natural selection doesn't favor intrinsically superior characteristics, but those that help an organism to survive and reproduce more effectively than others. Based on several tests, scientists believe that this process has been repeated many times through time in the history of Earth. Evolution by natural selection can explain that adaptation that exists between modern organisms and their environment.